Hello, fourth graders. This week in Garden, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with our Lewis and Clark unit, and we are going to be exploring your own backyard, park, parking strip, whatever you want, to look for a flower to press. All right, now hopefully some of you guys have been keeping your notebooks handy, right? And you've been going out and looking for interesting leaves or flowers, and so you kind of have a baseline for some of this stuff. What you're going to do this week is you're going to find a flower. Okay, so you're going to want this sheet, all right? And we're going to talk a little bit about the different parts of the flower. You can see here I included a diagram for you guys to reference the informative text. And you're going to press it right here. Okay, when you go find something to press, I would suggest using a really thick book. Works nice for pressing. Okay, you can use anything heavy, and that's going to press that plant and preserve it. All right, so remember, in the past few classes, what we've done is we've looked at some of the actual pressings that live in Cincinnati, most of them now, from the Lewis and Clark exhibit. You can see this one has flower. This is a mock orange, which you're probably going to be able to find out and about around in Seattle, actually. So this one's a mock orange from the expedition. You can see this was collected 1806, July 4th, Blackfoot River, Montana. Okay. There's another one, which actually this one is named after Meriwether Lewis. It is Lewis's monkey flower. All right, so he actually had a plant named after him that he found on the expedition. You can see these are the different parts of the flower. Okay, so they're not just pressing just the flower. They do have that kind of right here off to the side, but you also want to get a representation of the actual plant. You can see this one has leaves. Okay, it has the stem. It has a bud here, right, an open flower, because the more information that botanists can give to other people that haven't seen that plant, the better, right? And so then if you have any questions when you come back, you kind of know what you're looking for. So this is Lewis's monkey flower. We have, this is another one from the expedition. This is bluebells. Okay. Again, you can see they press the whole plant. Obviously, roots are not included in most of these pressings. Okay, roots are going to be a lot watery. That's where a lot of the fluids are going to be. Okay, and then this one, chances are you have it somewhere local in your parking strip, yard. This is clover. All right, big-headed clover. And so this, chances are you'll be able to find out in grass. Bees love this clover. Okay, but you will notice with most of these flowers, let's see, there's another one. There's narrow leaf skullcap. Okay, you'll notice most of the flowers are very small. Small flowers are going to press easier. If you go out and try to press like a tulip right now, right, there are a lot of tulips around, it might not press that easy. It's a little bit thicker. So the thinner flowers that are a little bit more precious, those are going to be easier to put into a pressing. This one, you can see they did some of the roots. So that's very cool as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to get out this sheet, okay? If you have your journal, great. You can go ahead and get that out. If not, that's fine too. And then from your garden kit, what we're going to use is we're going to use that big roll of tape that I gave you guys, okay, with the glue dots. So we're going to use this. All right, and so I will switch over to my document camera so you guys can start watching kind of how we do this. All right, fourth graders, so if you've been outside and gone to find a flower, great. If not, you can go ahead and go find one now, pause this video, and then when you come back, you're going to be ready to go, okay? I went ahead and I pressed a couple flowers ahead of time. Remember, so to press them, you're just going to put something really nice and big and heavy. You can put like a cover sheet on this so that the book doesn't, if it's a book, it doesn't get kind of dirty from pressing the flowers. But I had 3 different flowers that I pressed. If you want to use one bigger one, again, like some of the pictures we showed with Lewis and Clark where they have the stem, okay, that'll work great. These are just for reference. So what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to take our little tape with our glue dots, and this is nice and easy. You kind of just fold it back where the glue dot is. You can see it right there. And you can stick it onto your flower, okay, and then kind of peel it off. Go nice and slow since you don't want to break the flower. Boop. Okay, so now the glue dot's on the back. Again, it makes it a little sticky, but it's going to be able to stick to the paper now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this flower and we're going to stick it. You can stick it wherever you want. I said press your specimen here. If it's a large specimen, you can do that. Okay, if it's a smaller specimen, I've got it there. So now if I tilt this paper, that pressed flower is going to stay on there. Okay, so now I have 2 more. So again, if you want to just peel off a glue dot kind of like this onto your finger, you can always do that. It's whatever works for you. So like I've got it here. I'm going to plop it down right here. And then add this flower right here. Perfect. Oops. And sometimes a petal might fall off. That's just kind of the way of pressed flowers, is that it makes them much more fragile. Okay, and then I've got one more that I'm going to use. So one more glue dot. There we go. Try to make it as flat as possible. This last one I had folded the glue dot over, so it made it a little bumpy, which broke the flower. So there we go. I've got my 3 flowers. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to think like a botanist, a historical botanist. Okay, and when you describe things, you want to be able to point out the key features of the flower. So again, this is why I've given you some informative text over here. So you can see here's the flower. Okay, so that's nice and easy. This one has a bud. Okay, so if you can find one that has a bud, even better. Remember that, let's see, it wasn't the skullcap. What was it that had buds? It wasn't the clover. The monkey flower, Lewis's monkey flower. So remember, this one had a bud on it, right? Which makes it easier because then you can see the full life cycle of that plant. So if you can find one with a bud, even better. Now, there is the sepal right here, okay, underneath. There is the stamen in the middle, so you can see this one. You can see the stamen in the middle, okay? You can see the leaf blade on some, so some of them ideally might have a leaf blade. None of mine do, so I didn't collect the best one. Stem, okay, you can see this one has a stem right here, which is important because then you can see the size of the stem in relation to the flower head, okay? And then roots, if you have roots. So what you're going to do is you can go through and you're going to label, okay, the parts. And if you choose one big one, awesome. I did 3 little ones, so it's whatever works for you. So I'm going to put flower here, right? This is the leaf right here. So you can see this flower has really kind of a very thin leaf, right? It's not that blade that we're used to like this one, okay? You can see the flower each has a petal. You guys know the flower parts by now, so you can label some of them. Okay, and again, you can go through and label them. Petal, stem. Okay, and once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and write your description. You can choose one. So choose whatever you have the most parts for. So I'm gonna write like a big star here, okay? And then I'm gonna draw a star in here so I know that that's the one I'm describing. All right, so you are going to use your knowledge, and you don't have to know exactly what type of flower this is. You don't have to know a lot about it. You're just gonna use your observations, right? We're thinking like a scientist. And so if you have your magnifying glass from earlier this year, okay, you can use that to really get a close-up look at some of the different parts. Is there a different veining on the flower? Okay, all sorts of cool things. So what we're going to do is we are going to say it has, so the flower has purple petals, right? And thin, greenish, thin green leaves that, what do I think those leaves resemble? They really more resemble veins, right? Like the veins in our body. They're thin and they're definitely almost wispy. This is where we like to use really great language, really descriptive language, right? Because thin green leaves, what is thin? Thin's a relative term. One thing, you know, something that's thin to one person might be considered thick to another, all right? So I'm going to say thin green leaves that have a wispy quality. Perfect. Okay, and then another thing that explorers did was they would measure. So I'm going to grab my ruler, okay, and I am going to go ahead and measure this flower. So the petal really, or the flower overall, measures about, you can see, it's almost a full inch. It's about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say flower measures 3/4 of an inch. Remember, inch is like a almost quotation mark in the air. Okay, and that way I know how big that flower is. All right, and that's it. That's all you have to do. So I want you to ideally go out and find, if you have one big one, okay, that you can label that maybe has a couple different parts, like a bud, a flower, some leaves. Awesome. Okay, but you're going to go out and find a flower. You're going to press it here. You're going to label it. And then you're going to use your description words to write about that flower. All right, and again, don't just say pink flower, green stem. Use some key vocabulary words that you guys all know, okay, to give the reader a good idea of what kind of flower you're looking at. All right, and then that's it. That's all for this week. All right, and then again, keep looking for different things in your plant journal. Okay, if you find flowers, great. Cool leaves. Okay, this one's an Oregon grape. You can see it's almost thorny. All right, but keep exploring and keep adding to your note. All right, you guys, that is it for this exercise. All right, so you guys, this week you have gone ahead and you've learned a bit, reviewed some of the parts of the flower. All right, you've gone ahead and you've pressed a flower, hopefully you're in the process of pressing a flower that you can save, and you've written a description for it, and then you've labeled it. You can do that after it's pressed. Sometimes that's easier. So just like Lewis and Clark that were exploring and found all sorts of really cool botanical discoveries, all right, you guys are well on track for adding to your own collection. All right, and then anything else cool that you find, you can add to your plant journal. All right, so keep adding different things when you see them. It's helpful to have the date on there. Okay, one day you'll look back and you'll say, oh, 2021, I found all sorts of really cool plant discoveries. All right, so until the time we meet next time, keep on looking for cool things, and we'll see you next time.